When my mom died, I thought my sister and I would split everything. Not a chance, she hissed. You're no real heir. She filed probate paperwork naming herself sole heir. You've got no right to a cent, she spat. In court, my lawyer handed the judge a single sealed envelope. She broke the seal, scanned the page, and began to read Mom's letter. My name's Madison Wells. I'm 34 years old. The world feels muffled today, like I'm listening to it through thick layers of cotton. Every sound is dull and distant, stripped of its sharpness. That's because the centerpiece of my world, my mother, is in the next room, breathing in shallow, ragged puffs that are more memory than life. The hospice nurse just left, her quiet sympathy another grain of sand on a mountain of sorrow I can no longer see the top of. She moved with a practiced gentleness that only made the finality of it all feel sharper. My stepfather, Thomas, is making coffee in the kitchen. The harsh, grating sound of the bean grinder feels like a violation, a screech of normalcy in a house that should be holding its breath. He believes in routines, in the comfort of predictable actions. I think he's making coffee because he doesn't know what else to do. My younger half-sister, Carla, is curled up on the armchair, the blue light of her phone illuminating her face. She's probably updating her friends on the family tragedy, her thumbs flying across the screen. Her grief is a performance, another story she's telling about herself. For them, this is the end of their perfect trio, the shattering of the image they've so carefully crafted for years. For me, it's the end of the only person in this house who ever truly saw me. On the mantelpiece above the fireplace sits a long row of gleaming silver frames. Each one holds a different version of the same picture. Thomas, Mom, and Carla, there they are on a beach, their arms around each other, laughing into the sun. There they are at Carla's high school graduation, beaming. There they are on Christmas morning, wearing matching pajamas. The perfect trio, as Thomas always called it. It was his favorite phrase, a neat little package that explained his world. Not a single picture of me has occupied a space on that mantel in 20 years, not since I was 14. My pictures are in an old leather-bound album tucked away on a shelf in my childhood bedroom upstairs. The leather is cracked at the spine and the pages have gone soft with age. That album holds the other story, the one that came before. It's filled with pictures of me, Mom, and my biological father, the man who gave me my last name and died when I was 6. Mom always said that album was my history and the mantelpiece was just decoration. A pretty story for guests, but I never believed her. Decoration is what you show the world. The album was a secret, something to be looked at alone. Erasure doesn't happen all at once with a dramatic confrontation. It's a slow fade, one photo at a time, until you look up one day and realize you've become a ghost in your own home. Mom calls for me. Her voice is a wisp of its former self, a thread of sound in the heavy silence. Maddie, it's barely audible, but it cuts through the muffled air and finds me instantly. I get up from my chair by the window. Thomas looks up from his coffee and Carla's thumbs pause on her phone. They both move to follow me into the bedroom, a reflexive action, the trio assembling. But from her bed, Mom lifts a frail hand and gives a small, tired shake of her head. Just Madison, she whispers, and the words are a dismissal. A final assertion of a boundary they've never respected. They stop in the doorway, their faces a mixture of confusion and resentment. I close the door behind me, shutting them out. The room smells of lavender from the diffuser and the clean, medicinal scent of sickness. She gestures to the nightstand where a thick, cream-colored envelope sits. It's sealed with a blob of dark red wax. This is for the judge, she says, her breath catching. Only the judge, don't let anyone else open it. I take it. It feels heavy, important. Then she fumbles with the clasp of the silver locket she always wears. After a moment, she gives up and presses the whole thing into my palm. It's still warm from her skin, but it feels cold against mine. This was my mother's, now it's yours, her final gift. I've named you executor, Maddie. You're the only one I trust to be fair, to be strong. She sees me. She has always seen me. She asks me to take out my phone and turn on the voice recorder. She wants to leave no room for doubt, no space for their stories to take root. I press the red button and she speaks, her voice gaining a surprising, reedy strength. She states her name, the date, and that she is of sound mind. She affirms the will, the letter, and me. Her final instruction is the one that chills me to the bone. Her eyes, cloudy with medication but sharp with intent, lock onto mine. Look after your sister. I feel my jaw tighten. She doesn't mean it in the kind, sentimental way a stranger would hear it. She isn't asking me to be nice to Carla. She's warning me, be ready for her. It's a caution she's been giving me my whole life, coded in a mother's concern. She knew them. She knew the smooth, placating way Thomas operated and the sharp, entitled way Carla took up space. She knew exactly how they saw me, as a temporary holdover from a previous life, an inconvenient loose end in their perfect narrative. Promise me you'll see this through, she says, her fingers all bone and paper-thin skin tightening on my hand. Don't let them write you out. The words are a direct hit, she knew. She saw every erased photo, heard every careful introduction that sidelined me. She knew what they were planning. I squeeze her hand back, trying to pour all my strength, all my love into that simple touch. I promise, Mom. They won't. The promise isn't just to execute her will according to the law. It's a promise to fight back against 26 years of being quietly, politely, and relentlessly pushed to the margins. I leave her room with a sealed letter, a silver locket, and a digital recording. I leave with my grief, but I also leave with my armor. The battle is coming, and for the first time, I have my weapons. Mom passed away 2 days ago in the quiet of the early morning. Now the house is full of the scent of baked ham and lilies, crowded with casseroles and quiet condolences from neighbors. Thomas called a family meeting this afternoon to discuss the funeral arrangements. I was invited as an afterthought, my name added to a group text after Carla had already sent the first 2 messages. I walk into the dining room and Carla already has a binder open on the table. It's white and pristine with color-coded tabs. She's been planning this. Of course she has. She wants to put together a slideshow of photos for the reception. A celebration of her life with us, she says, her gaze flicking meaningfully toward Thomas. The word us hangs in the air, heavy and exclusive. It's a velvet rope and I'm on the wrong side of it. I clear my throat, my voice feeling rusty. There's a beautiful photo of Mom and me from our trip to the coast 5 years ago, I suggest. She loved that picture, we could include it. Carla gives me a tight, pitying smile. It's a look she perfected in middle school. Oh, I don't think so, Maddie, she says, her tone dripping with false sweetness. It doesn't really fit the timeline of her life with Dad. It would just confuse people. Confuse them into thinking Mom had 2 daughters. Confuse them into seeing a part of her life that didn't revolve around their trio. The dismissal is so swift, so casual, it takes my breath away. It's not a debate, it's a ruling. The real clash comes over the obituary. I spent last night writing a draft, trying to capture the essence of Mom in a few short paragraphs. I thought it was good. I thought it was fair. It mentions she is survived by her loving husband, Thomas, and her 2 daughters, Madison Wells and Carla Harper. I hand the printout to Carla. She skims it and a small, derisive scoff escapes her lips. That makes it sound like we're equal, she says, not even looking at me. She slides the paper across the table to Thomas. He puts on his reading glasses, his face a mask of thoughtful concern. He murmurs. It might flow a bit better, be a little clearer for everyone if we said, survived by her family, husband Thomas and daughter Carla and her eldest daughter Madison Wells. The separation is so precise, so deliberate. They are family, a neat, self-contained unit. I am and her eldest daughter, an add-on, a footnote. This isn't a suggestion about literary flow, it's an edict, a final edit of my role in this story. My draft is pushed to the side, my words dismissed as irrelevant. I feel a cold knot form in my stomach. The battle has already begun and my mother is barely gone. They aren't even waiting for the casseroles to get cold. They're moving fast, cementing their narrative before the ink on the death certificate is even dry. I try one last time to use the tools of a normal family. I try reason. I try appealing to the memory of the person we are all supposed to be mourning. Mom would have wanted both of her daughters mentioned equally, I say, keeping my voice as steady as I can, though I can feel a tremor starting in my hands. Carla's eyes flash with a sudden hot anger. "Don't you dare," she spits, her voice low and sharp, "tell me what my mother would have wanted. I was the one here with her every single day." It's a blatant lie. I had been there just as much, scheduling my work-from-home days around her hospice care, sitting with her for hours while Carla was out with friends. But the truth doesn't matter. Thomas immediately steps in to play the peacemaker, which has always been his code for siding with Carla. "Now, girls, let's not fight," he says, his voice a smooth, placating balm. "This is a time for harmony, harmony." That's his favorite word right after trio. Harmony means my silence. Harmony means my erasure. Harmony means I sit back and let them write me out of my own mother's life story. And in that moment, looking at their two united faces, I see it with perfect, painful clarity. Logic won't work. Emotion won't work. The only thing they have ever understood is power. The only thing they will ever respect is leverage. I don't say another word. I simply stand up, push my chair in, and walk out of the dining room. I retreat to my old bedroom, the one with the faded floral wallpaper and the shelves of books I read as a teenager. I go to the bookshelf and pull down the old leather-bound album, My History. They can control the funeral. They can write the obituary. They can curate the public story that all their friends will hear. That's their stage. But my mother, in her final days, gave me the tools to control the reality, the one that happens in courtrooms and lawyers' offices. I sit on the edge of my bed, the album in my lap, and I take out my phone. I scroll through my contacts until I find the name. I press the call button and hold the phone to my ear, my heart beating a slow, steady, determined rhythm. "Hello, Daniel," I say when he answers. "It's Madison Wells. My mother passed." It's time. I'm no longer just a grieving daughter. The time for that is over, a luxury I can't afford. I am preparing for war. My options have narrowed to a single dark path. Direct confrontation is a dead end. From this moment on, I move in silence. My first official act as executor is to request all of Mom's financial documents. I do it by email formally to create a paper trail. Thomas, my stepfather, brings down a single, slightly dusty file box from his office and hands it over with a dismissive air, as if it's a tedious chore he's graciously letting me handle for him. "Let me know if you need help with the big words," he says with a thin smile. I don't react, I just take the box. Inside, I find everything I need: bank statements, investment account paperwork, the deed to the house, and most importantly, the mortgage information. I flip through the mortgage documents, my breath catching when I see the lender. It's with a small, local credit union, not one of the giant national banks. This is a stroke of luck I couldn't have planned for. A smaller institution is more agile, easier to negotiate with. Its decisions made by people in an office downtown, not by an algorithm 1,000 miles away. Seeing Mom's signature on these papers, so firm and clear even from years ago, feels like a message from the past. It's a vote of confidence, a hand on my shoulder. I spend a whole night at my own apartment, spreading the papers across my dining table, a bottle of water and a legal pad by my side. It feels like I'm assembling a complex puzzle, and for the first time in weeks, a sense of control begins to push back against the tide of grief. This isn't just about money or assets. This is about honoring the trust she placed in me, a trust I refuse to let them break. A few days later, I call Thomas and Carla, my younger half-sister, to the house to give them a preliminary overview of the estate, as is my legal duty as executor. I have my notes prepared, a simple one-page summary for them to review, but they hijack the meeting before I can even finish my first sentence. It's not a meeting, it's an ambush. "This all seems very complicated, Madison," Thomas says, steepling his fingers and leaning back in his chair, adopting the posture of a kindly but firm patriarch. "Perhaps it would be best to let things stay in the family." Carla jumps in on her cue, her voice earnest. He means with us, you have your own life, your own apartment, we can handle this from here. It would be easier on you. They are trying to manage me, to gently but firmly box me out of my legal role. They talk about keeping things simple and avoiding messy legal stuff, as if I'm the one complicating things by simply following my mother's written instructions. What they really mean is they want me to sign everything over to them and disappear back into the background where they feel I belong. The implication is as clear as the polished surface of the dining table between us. I am not family enough to be trusted with family matters. This meeting isn't about the estate. It's a loyalty test, and I'm failing it by simply doing my job. I leave that meeting with a fire in my chest where the cold knot of grief used to be. My resolve hardens from a liquid to a solid. The next day, I'm sitting in the quiet, book-lined office of my attorney, Daniel Price. He's a calm, methodical man in his 40s, the kind of person who listens more than he talks. I explain my idea, the one that's been taking shape since I saw the name of that local credit union on the mortgage papers. I want to acquire the mortgage on the house. He listens patiently, his expression unreadable. When I'm finished, he leans back in his chair. "It's an aggressive move, Madison," he says, his voice even. "It's legal, but it's aggressive. Are you absolutely sure?" "I am. It's the only move they won't see coming." Daniel explains the risks. "It will require a significant amount of my own capital to set up a holding company and then use that company to purchase the loan from the bank. If it fails, if the bank refuses to sell, or if something goes wrong, I lose that money. It's a gamble, but my entire life in this family has been a gamble on whether I'd be acknowledged or ignored on any given day. I'm not just betting money, I'm betting that I understood my mother's final warning correctly." I look him in the eye. "Do it," I say. I authorize him to make discreet inquiries with the credit union. The first piece of the trap is being laid. The atmosphere in the house becomes unbearable in the following days. I'm still staying there, sorting through Mom's personal things, but it feels like I'm in enemy territory. Carla alternates between giving me the silent treatment and making sharp, passive-aggressive comments designed to sting. "I found Mom's old recipe box," she announced one afternoon, holding it up as if it were a sacred relic. "I'll take care of it, since I'm the one who actually cooks her recipes." Thomas, for his part, treats me with a polite, cold distance that's somehow worse than open hostility. He starts calling me Madison, not Maddie, the name my mom always used, the name that felt like home. The shift is subtle but intentional, another way of pushing me away. They are creating a united front against me, a silent, two-person conspiracy. Every stilted conversation, every avoided glance is a fresh reminder of my status as an outsider. I finally realize this is no longer about settling an estate. It's about my right to exist within my own family's history. They aren't just trying to get a house and some money. They are trying to retroactively remove me from the family picture, to finalize the erasure that began with those photographs on the mantle. The stakes are no longer financial, they are existential, and I will not be erased. It happens on a Tuesday morning. I'm sitting at the kitchen island nursing a cup of tea when my phone buzzes on the countertop. A text message notification lights up the screen. It's from Carla. My heart sinks, my body tensing in preparation for another passive-aggressive jab about sorting Mom's closets or some other small cruelty. But the message isn't for me. It's a short, brutal sentence: "Don't worry, Dad." I talked to Megan Carter. She said we file the petition next week and the court will remove her. She'll make sure the non-heir gets a clear message. A second text follows almost immediately, a frantic burst of words. "Wrong person. Sorry, but the damage is done." The words non-heir burn on the screen, seared into my brain. It's not just a casual insult. It's a legal term, a category they have already put me in, a box they are building to lock me out forever. There it is, the hard proof, not a suspicion, not an oversensitive feeling, a documented, deliberate plan to strip me of my rights, my role, and my identity as my mother's daughter. My hands are surprisingly steady as I take a screenshot, then another just to be sure. I forward the image to Daniel Price with a single 3-word message: green light. Burn it all down. The last shred of doubt I had about my aggressive plan, the tiny voice that whispered I was going too far, evaporates in a flash of cold, clarifying fury. The accidental text becomes a clear line in the sand. I stop all communication with Thomas and Carla. No more stilted phone calls, no more disastrous meetings in the dining room. I instruct Daniel to inform their lawyer that from now on, all communication will go through the proper legal channels. The pretense of being a family is officially over. We are a battlefield. That afternoon, I go to my bank and wire the necessary funds to the limited liability company Daniel created for me. The name on the incorporation documents is simple: L.W. Holdings. For Laura Wells, my mother's maiden name, it feels right. I'm using her original name, the one that belongs only to her and to me, to protect the legacy she left. Daniel calls to confirm the transfer has been received. We're moving ahead, he says, his voice all business now. He understands the stakes. A strange and profound sense of relief washes over me. The charade is over. I don't have to sit at that dining room table and pretend we're a grieving family anymore. We are what we have secretly been for years, two opposing sides. Now the lines are clearly drawn for everyone to see. I am no longer just defending my position as executor, I am building a fortress around my mother's last wishes. Daniel calls me later that same day, his voice tight with urgency. They didn't wait, he says. Carla's lawyer, a woman named Megan Carter, has already filed the petition to have you removed as executor, and it includes a motion to declare Carla the sole heir. The speed is staggering. They must have had it ready to go, just waiting for the right moment. They weren't bluffing. This sets a clock, Madison, Daniel warns me. The court will schedule a hearing probably within a few weeks. We need to have the mortgage acquisition finalized before that date. It has to be a done deal before we walk into that courtroom. Suddenly, the fight has a deadline. A probate court hearing date will soon be looming on my calendar, a fixed point in the future toward which everything is now hurtling. Every day that passes is one day closer to a public showdown. I feel a surge of anxiety, but it's mixed with a strange, sharp adrenaline. Let them have their hearing. Let them stand up in a public courtroom and make their case. The trap won't work if they don't walk into it. And they are walking, no, they are running right into it with an arrogance that will be their undoing. My entire perspective has shifted. My goal is no longer just to execute the will as my mother wrote it. That's too simple. That's playing defense, reacting to their moves. My new goal, the one that has crystallized in the last 24 hours, is to create a consequence so severe, so public, that they can never again deny my place in this family. I'm not just trying to win, I'm trying to make an undeniable statement. I go back to my apartment that night and pull out the voice recording of my mother. I close my eyes and listen to her words again, her voice filling the quiet room. Don't let them write you out. I realize now she wasn't just talking about the will or the money. She was talking about my entire life, about the 26 years I had spent as the silent, accommodating stepdaughter. The pivot is complete. I am no longer simply my mother's executor, a legal functionary carrying out a task. I am her avenger. They wanted a fight. They have absolutely no idea what a real fight looks like. My Aunt Carol, my mom's younger sister, calls me on a Friday night. She lives 3 states away and just heard the news about the court filing from a gossiping cousin. Her voice is thick with an anger that feels like a warm blanket. I'm so sorry, Maddie, she says, her fury crackling through the phone. Your mother would be absolutely furious with them. She hesitates for a moment and I can hear her take a deep breath like she's making a decision. There's something you should know, something your mother made me promise not to tell unless it became necessary. I think it's necessary now. She tells me that in the last few months of Mom's life, Thomas and Carla had been relentlessly pressuring her to change her will. They wanted everything left to them with a small token, as they'd put it, for me, a parting gift. They had even brought their lawyer, to the house on 2 separate occasions to try and get her to sign new papers. But my mother, even as she was fading, refused, flat out. My aunt lowers her voice, quoting Mom directly. She told them, "Madison is my daughter. She was my daughter before you were my husband, and she will be treated as my daughter in my death." This is not negotiable. The words hit me like a physical blow, but a good one. It's a shield, it's a vindication. This new information changes everything. My plan to acquire the mortgage, which had felt so cold-blooded and aggressive, is suddenly reframed. It wasn't a disproportionate response to a simple misunderstanding. It was a continuation of a fight my mother had already been waging in private, behind closed doors, while I was blissfully unaware. She had been protecting me even at the end. She stood up to them, weak and dying, and held the line for me. Now I understand the sealed letter, the voice recording, her fierce insistence on naming me executor. They weren't just standard legal precautions, they were weapons she was deliberately forging and leaving behind for me to find. The last vestiges of guilt I felt about the severity of my plan vanish like smoke. I'm not just honoring her written wishes, I'm finishing her last fight. This isn't about my revenge anymore, it's about her justice. My mother drew a line in the sand with her dying breath, and I will hold that line, no matter the cost. I call Daniel immediately and tell him everything my aunt said. He's quiet for a moment on the other end of the line. "This strengthens our moral position, if not our legal one," he finally says. "But our legal plan is already strong. The credit union is open to the sale. They see it as a simple portfolio adjustment." His words are practical, but I know he understands the emotional shift. "Finalize it," I tell him, and there is no hesitation in my voice, only steel. "Finalize the mortgage acquisition, now, whatever it takes." The wire transfer I made earlier was a financial commitment. This phone call is an emotional one. This is the point of no return. The house was the symbol of their perfect trio. It was the physical stage for my 26 years of erasure. The mantelpiece, the dining room, the family photos, it was all there. Now that very house will become my leverage. The foundation of their false narrative will be the tool of their public undoing. It's a kind of poetic justice my mother, a quiet woman of great principle, would have secretly appreciated. I sit in my quiet apartment, the city lights twinkling outside my window, and I hold my mother's silver locket in my hand. It feels warm now, as if infused with my newfound purpose. My goal is no longer just about executing a will or even about being seen. It's about making the truth public. I need to drag their private manipulations into the light. The truth that my mother loved me fiercely and protectively. The truth that she never, not for 1 second, wanted me sidelined or treated as less than. And the most important truth of all, that Carlo and Thomas actively tried to subvert her dying wishes for their own greed and to satisfy their own petty need for a perfect, uncomplicated story. I will not just win in court. I will expose them. I will do it in front of the community they so carefully cultivated, the church members and neighbors and family friends they've been lying to for years with their perfect family photos. I will make them say my name. Not as a footnote, not as an afterthought, but as the person who holds all the cards. A courier rings my doorbell just after lunch. I open the door, and there he is in a gray polo, holding a thick envelope with my name typed in tidy black letters. He asks me to sign on a little screen. My hand trembles, but I write my name anyway. The envelope is heavier than it looks. It's the kind of weight that doesn't come from paper, it comes from intention. I carry it to my kitchen table. The house is quiet except for the soft hum of the refrigerator and a lawn mower droning somewhere down the street. I break the seal and slide the stack of papers out. The language is stiff and cold. It talks about fitness and conflict and estrangement. The words are dressed up, but the meaning is simple. They're saying I'm unfit to serve as executor. They're saying I don't belong. I keep reading. They claim my mother made her decisions because she was weak and confused. They claim I pressured her. The breath goes out of me like someone punched me. My eyes blur, not from the small print, but from the ugliness. They aren't just trying to push me out. They're dragging my mother through the mud to do it. I picture Mom sitting in her bed, her voice steady as she recorded her wishes into my phone. Sound mind, clear heart, love for both her daughters. I press my fist against my chest to hold myself steady. I turn a page and the phrase that tipped their whole hand stares up at me like it's been waiting. Primary family unit. There it is, tidy and neat, the thing they've always believed written down in a stranger's voice. I set the papers down and close my eyes. My hands feel ice cold. For a second the room spins, then I open my eyes and pick up a pen. I write today's date on a sticky note and stick it to the front page. I'm not going to forget this moment. I take a photo of the cover page and send it to Daniel with a short text. Received. Then I slide the stack back into the envelope and set it on the counter, away from the sink, away from anything that could damage it. I won't let them ruin my mother's words by inventing their own. Not here, not in my kitchen, not anywhere. My phone rings later that afternoon, a name filling the screen that makes my stomach clench. Uncle Mike, my dad's brother. He picked me up from school after my father's funeral. He fixed the chain on my bike when I was 8. He's always been steady, I answer, bracing myself. Maddie, he says, and my heart lifts at the old nickname. Then his voice shifts, careful, the way people talk when they've picked a side. I just got off the phone with Thomas. I heard there's court stuff, petitions and all that, he sighs. I know this is hard. There's a pause, the kind that asks me to step in and make it easier. I stay quiet. He fills the silence. Thomas is trying to protect Carla. They're both grieving. This legal battle, I don't think it's what your mother would have wanted. I close my eyes. It's the same line, the same weapon from a different mouth. Uncle Mike, I say, Mom wanted me as executor. She said it. She wrote it. She meant it. They're the ones trying to undo that. He makes a little sound, a sympathizing huff. Sometimes the right thing is to keep the peace. Family shouldn't be about lawyers. Let them have a little time. Don't make waves. The words land like pebbles dropped into a well. Don't make waves. I see him standing next to me on the lake dock when I was 12, his hand on the small of my back telling me I could jump, that the water would hold me. Now his voice is asking me to sit down on the dock and let someone else swim to the middle and claim it as theirs. I'm not the one who filed in court, I say softly. They did. He clears his throat, impatient now. Maybe they felt they had no choice. You know how close they were. You were always independent. Independent. The nice word that meant I learned to take care of myself because no one else would. I look out the kitchen window at the neighbor's maple tree, its leaves moving in a light wind. I loved Mom, I say, and she loved me. She chose me for this. There's a hard exhale on his end. I'm telling you this because I care about you. Walk away before this gets ugly. People remember who stirred the pot. I'm not stirring it, I say, but I can hear him shutting down. He's already decided what story he wants. Think about it, he says, and the warmth drains from his voice. Family doesn't have to be a fight. Then the line goes silent. He's gone. I set my phone down and press my palms flat on the counter. The cool surface grounds me. Somewhere, a dog barks. My eyes burn. I think about the day after my father died when Uncle Mike took me for ice cream, chocolate dripping down my wrist while he told me stories about Dad teaching him to throw a baseball. He kept my world stitched together that day. Now he wants me to let it unravel because it's neater for everyone else. I don't cry, I breathe in and out. I tell myself the truth, plain and simple. Someone I trusted chose their version of events over mine. It hurts. It doesn't change what I have to do. 2 days later, I go to the grocery store. It's the one Mom loved because the produce always looks like it came out of a garden an hour ago and the cashiers call everyone hun. I'm in the apples, lifting them, smelling for that sweet bite of ripeness when I see Claire Meadows from church. She's Ruth Allen's friend, the one who organizes the food train when somebody has a baby or a loss. She spots me and her smile freezes like a picture snapped at the wrong time. Her cart makes a small squeak as she pivots, turning down the next aisle so fast her purse bumps the corner. I stand there holding a Honeycrisp and feel something cold slide into my stomach. I put the apple back and step into the next aisle. Claire is staring hard at cans of tomatoes. She keeps her eyes on the labels, but her voice rises just a bit too bright. "Hi, Madison," she says without looking at me. "How are you holding up?" "I'm okay," I lie. "Thanks." She nods like she's checked a box and then points at a brand of sauce. "This one's on sale." She moves on before I can answer. By the time I reach the bread, two other women I recognize from the church choir have drifted near. One whispers, "Not quiet enough, it's such a shame." The other sighs, "These things bring out the worst in people." Then they both look at me and give small, sad smiles. The kind you give to a person you think has made a mess she shouldn't have made. At the checkout, the cashier asks how my day is going, and I say, "Fine," in a voice that sounds like it's coming from the next aisle over. I scan the gum and magazines and see a headline about a celebrity family torn apart by a will. The world loves these stories, even our town. I can feel the shape of the tale that's spreading. Selfish eldest daughter, bitter and jealous, dragging a sweet, grieving trio into court. I can hear how it's being told in living rooms and group chats, and after church over coffee, all the edges worn smooth so it fits neatly into their idea of us. When I get home, I carry the groceries in one bag at a time just to keep moving. I set them on the counter and line up the apples like it matters. My phone buzzes with a message from a number I don't recognize. "Praying for peace," it says, no name, no context, just a verdict in disguise. I put the milk in the fridge and close the door more gently than I feel. This is what they do best, they control the story. They've been rehearsing for years with the mantle photos and the carefully worded introductions. Now they're taking it to the town, but not everyone is turning away. Ruth Allen leaves a voicemail later, soft and steady. "I'm here," she says. "If you need a ride to court or a place to sit after, call me." It's a small light in a room that's getting darker. That night, Daniel calls while I'm washing a pan. The water runs hot over my fingers and steam fogs up the window above the sink. "The court set a date," he says, 3 weeks from today." I turn the faucet off and lean against the counter. 3 weeks, I repeat. The words feel like a clock starting to tick on the back of my neck. "We'll have time," he says, calm like always, "but not extra. I want you to be ready for a noisy few weeks. Their lawyer has sent requests for your financial records." "For what?" I ask, even though I already know. "They want to tell a story about motive," he says. "They'll try to paint you as needing money. They'll dig for anything they can say supports that." "Let them look," I say, my jaw set. "They won't find anything. My bills are paid. My savings are modest but steady. I didn't ask for a penny from my mother beyond what she decided." He sighs. "It's less about truth and more about what sounds good in a room full of people." "We'll be ready." After we hang up, I go to my calendar on the fridge and circle the date in red. The circle looks like a bullseye. I stand there a long time, marker still uncapped in my hand, feeling the room close in a little. I sleep badly that night, my dreams full of rooms where I walk in and find my name rubbed off chalkboards and thrown away envelopes addressed to occupant. I wake up in the dark, my heart pounding, my mother's voice in my ear. "Don't let them write you out." In the morning, I make coffee and sit at the table with a notepad. I write down the things I can control in one column. In the other, I list what I can't. I can gather paperwork. I can stay off their social media. I can keep my head down and my steps steady. I can't stop them from telling their friends the story they've been practicing. I can't stop Claire from turning her card away. It's raining when the call comes. The steady kind of rain that taps the windows and makes the whole apartment feel wrapped in a gray blanket. Daniel's voice has a charge in it I've never heard. It's like a wire humming. "Madison," he says, not bothering with hello. "I found it." For a second I think he means the end of all this pain, the way a kid thinks a parent might have found their lost toy. "Found what?" "The key." He's shuffling papers. I can hear the soft slap of pages. "I've been going through everything about the house, not just the loan, the deed, the original papers from when your mother and Thomas bought the place. There's a clause buried in there." My mouth goes dry. "What does it say?" "In simple terms," he says, slowing down, "it says the house can't be transferred in certain ways after one of the owners dies. If someone tries to take full control and does it by pushing out the person your mother put in charge, that counts as breaking the rules. Rain runs down the glass in long, thin lines. I follow one with my finger, and if the rules get broken, then the holder of the loan can call the whole thing due right away. He pauses to let that settle, which means the company you set up can demand payment for the full amount now. I swallow. You're saying their petition to make Carla the only heir to shove me aside, that counts? It does, he says. It's exactly the kind of move the papers were trying to prevent. Your mother and Thomas agreed to those words when they signed. Nobody ever thought about them because nobody ever reads that far, but they're there. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. The rain seems to hush for a second, like it's listening. So the very thing they filed, that's the trigger. Yes. He's quiet for a beat. It's clean, it's strong, it's not a trick. It's just the rule they already agreed to being used for what it was meant to do. Stop someone from cutting out the person who's supposed to guide things. I press my palm over my locket, feeling the tiny shape of it through my shirt. My mother's face flashes in my mind, not the tired one at the end, but the one from a picture in the old album, laughing under a bright sky. It's perfect, I whisper, my voice shakes and I don't care, it's so simple. I'll get everything lined up, Daniel says. We'll time it so the notice lands when it matters most, but I wanted you to know, you needed to hear it from me. The mechanism is real. I nod even though he can't see me. I'm standing in my kitchen, but I feel like I'm standing in a different place entirely. A place where the ground under my feet stops giving way. Thank you, I say. For finding it, he clears his throat. You hired me to do it, he says, a little gruff. I'm just doing my job. We hang up and I lean my forehead against the cool window. Outside, the rain deepens, the sky a low, even gray. Cars hiss by on wet streets. Somewhere, a child laughs, the sound bright and quick before it disappears. I think about all the times I was left out of a picture. About all the times I told myself it didn't matter. And then I think about this quiet line of words tucked into old papers, waiting. It feels like my mother whispering in a language only I can hear. I thought of you, I protected you. I put your name where they couldn't reach. I stared at the rain-slick window long after the call with Daniel ended, palms flat on the counter, pulse slowing. For a while, I'd held onto this tiny, stubborn hope that I could still fix it quietly. I'd imagined calling them into the dining room one last time, laying the mortgage papers on the table and making them see reason. In my head, Thomas would clear his throat, offer a tight smile, and stand down to keep the peace. Carla would roll her eyes, but she'd back off to avoid embarrassment. No audience, no scene, that picture pops like a soap bubble. The thing Daniel found is tied to what they did in public. The trigger isn't a whisper, it's a shout, stamped and filed. The path forward isn't a kitchen table talk. It's a courtroom with a judge and a gallery full of people who already think they know me. There's no more slipping around the edges. There's no private deal where we all pretend the story never happened. The last safe option slides off the table and hits the floor with a dull thud I can almost hear. I go to the sink and wash the one mug in there, scrubbing it with more force than necessary. The lemon dish soap scents the air. When I set the mug on the rack, my hands are steady. I dry my fingertips on a towel and pick up the envelope with their petition again, the one that called me non-heir in the language of strangers. I smooth the corner where the paper bent when I first opened it. Then I put it back in the drawer where I keep stamps and envelopes, like I'm putting it to bed before I wake it up again in a bigger room. This reversal has to happen out loud. It has to be witnessed by the same folks who watched them pretend I wasn't there. It has to be honest and it has to be clean. I don't need fireworks. I need a moment where the truth sits in the center of the room and no one can look away. I tuck my hair behind my ears and catch my reflection in the dark window, my face layered over the streetlight outside. I've spent years turning sideways, making myself small, letting other people stand in front for the picture. That ends now. I make a simple dinner, scrambled eggs and toast, because anything more feels like trying too hard. While I eat, I make a short list on a sticky note: clothes, folder, letter, locket, charger. A plan I can hold in my hand. When my plate is empty, I rinse it, dry it, put it back. No loose ends on the counter. No loose ends anywhere. The next day, I'm in Daniel's office, the familiar smell of old books and fresh coffee wrapping around us like a blanket. He spread everything out on his conference table. A neat stack of copies, a binder with tabs, a printed timeline that fits on a single page. He walks me through it, calm and clear, like he's calling steps for a dance. They'll go first, he says. They'll say everything they want to say. We let them, then I'll hand the judge your mother's letter. That's our anchor. I nod. The sealed letter sits in front of me, heavy and sure. I reach out and lay my palm on it like I'm touching Mom's shoulder. After the letter, I ask, even though I know. After the letter, he says, I text our guy, he walks in, he serves the notice. The timing matters, the impact matters. He doesn't need to say the rest. We're not just solving a problem. We're showing it solved where everyone can see. We talk about what I'll wear, simple, respectful, and how I'll enter the courthouse on time with my head up. We practice what I'll do if someone tries to talk to me in the hall. You look at me, he says. You say, please speak with my lawyer. That's it, that's all. I meet the process server that afternoon in a coffee shop downtown. He's early, sitting at a corner table with a black coffee and a newspaper like he fell out of a story from a different decade. His name is Calvin Reed. He stands when I reach the table, and for a second I notice how big he is, how grounded his presence feels. Not threatening, solid. You must be Madison, he says. His voice is low and even. I am. I slide into the chair across from him and pull out a small envelope. Inside is a printed photo of Carla taken at the funeral reception, her head tilted just right, her hair curled in the way she does it when she wants to be noticed. I put the photo on the table between us and he studies it carefully, the way a person studies a map before a long drive. Her, I say, in the courtroom, as soon as you get a text from my lawyer. No earlier, he nods. Got it? He doesn't ask questions, he doesn't need the backstory. His job is simple, put a moment on the record. We double-check our numbers. When he stands to leave, he adds, take care of yourself. It's nothing and everything. Back at home, I line my clothes up on the back of a chair. Black dress, dark sweater, low heels that won't betray me with a wobble. I polish the locket with the hem of an old shirt until it catches the light. I set it in the dish by my bed like a lighthouse, blinking steady. I charge my phone and my backup charger. I print 2 more copies of the photo of Carla and tuck them into my folder because I know how paper can go missing in the rush of a morning. I pack tissues, a pen, a bottle of water, a granola bar I probably won't eat. I call Ruth Allen. When she answers and hears my voice, her tone goes warm and steady. I'll be there, she says before I ask. You won't sit alone. Thank you, I whisper, gripping the phone like a rope tossed across water. Before I go to sleep, I sit on the edge of my bed and play Mom's recording again. I let her voice fill the room like a prayer. Then I set my alarm and turn off the lamp. The dark settles in, heavy but not crushing. I'm tired, but it's the kind of tired that comes after swimming a long way and seeing shore. There's no more hiding, and strangely, that makes it easier to breathe. My whole life, I've been a master of the side of the frame. I learned to read a room and slip into the gap where I wouldn't draw fire. I learned to lower my voice so I wouldn't be accused of making a scene. I helped hang garlands at Christmas and stepped out of the photo when someone said, just the family. I made myself a shadow to keep harmony, even when harmony meant I wasn't there. Now, I don't get to be a shadow, I don't want to be. I stand in my bathroom and look at myself, not sidelong but straight on. I take a deep breath and practice saying my own name out loud. My name is Madison Wells. It feels simple in my mouth, strong and clean. I say it again, not louder but firmer, like I'm setting a stone on the ground and stepping onto it. I think about the people who will be in that room. Uncle Mike with his tight, disappointed mouth. The choir ladies with their soft, pinched smiles. Men Thomas plays cards with in the church basement who have never said my name unless Mom said it first. I can hear the scrape of chairs, the rustle of jackets, the low hum of whispered opinions. I can smell floor polish and old paper. I can see the judge's bench, the place where stories get sorted into versions that count and versions that don't. If I let their faces scare me off, then everything I've done so far is just noise. So I picture something else. I picture Mom at my 8th grade orchestra concert, wearing a green scarf, her hands pressed together under her chin as I played a shaky ode to joy. She caught my eye over the sea of parents and mouths. "You're doing great," even when I wasn't. I hold that image like a candle. I write 3 words on a sticky note, "You belong here," and stick it inside my folder where only I'll see it. I put a second note in my bag that says, "Breathe." I turn off my phone and set it face down because I can't carry any more opinions tonight. Then I climb into bed and pull the blankets up to my chin like I used to when Mom would rub my back and tell me about the first time she saw the ocean. The spotlight is scary when you don't choose it. It's different when you're the one who flips the switch. The night before the hearing, my phone rings late, long after the street outside has gone quiet. The sound cuts through the room, too loud. I almost let it go to voicemail, but I swipe and hold it to my ear. "Hello, it's Thomas," he says. He doesn't say hello, he doesn't ask how I am. I sit up in bed, the sheet twisted around my legs. "What do you want?" My voice comes out steady, which surprises me. He is not angry, it's worse. He is calm the way a person is calm when they believe they're right. "I just want you to know, Madison," he says, each word precise, "what you're doing is unforgivable." The words hit like cold water. I don't answer. "You are tearing this family apart over a piece of paper." He says family like it's a club he founded and I'm trying to sneak into through a side door. I close my eyes, my throat tightens. The only sound in the room is the soft whir of the fan and the low hum of the fridge. He keeps going, gentle as a blade. "Your mother loved harmony, she hated ugliness. She would be ashamed of this. She would be ashamed of you." My hand opens and closes on the blanket. For a second, the room tilts. He isn't yelling, he's delivering a verdict. He pauses, maybe waiting for me to cry or beg or explain myself into a smaller version he can handle. I don't give him anything. He fills the silence with a sigh that sounds like disappointment. "I hope you can live with what you've done." Then the line clicks dead. I pull the phone away and stare at the blank screen. It feels heavy, like a stone dropped in my palm. I set it face down on the nightstand and lean back against the headboard, pressing the heels of my hands into my eyes until I see sparks. The light from the street filters through the blinds and makes thin ladders on the wall. I climb none of them. I just sit there, listening to my own breath, which suddenly sounds too loud in the quiet room. I don't realize I'm shaking until I reach for the glass of water and my fingers rattle against it. His words bloom in the dark like bruises. Ashamed, unforgivable, ugliness. I swallow hard and taste metal. I put the glass back very carefully so it doesn't clink. I can't breathe right. It's shallow and quick, the kind of breathing I did when I was little and trying not to cry in public. His voice runs a track through my mind that matches every small, steady cut that came before. Every holiday card they sent with matching outfits that didn't include me, even when I was living in that house. The Harpers, the script font sang, flowing and perfect, like I was a smudge the printer missed. Every time he introduced my daughter Carla with a hand on her shoulder while I stood right there, smiling like it didn't sting because Mom's eyes begged me to keep the peace. Every school open house where he stood in the middle of a group of teachers and said "our family" like it meant 2 people instead of 3, and I learned to nod and swallow the heat that climbed my neck. Every photo on the mantelpiece that screamed my absence in 100 different holiday lights. The core of it splits open inside me, hot and raw. The old belief crawls out and tries to take root again. I'm not a real part of them, I never was. I'm a guest who overstayed, a mistake they had to work around. For a breath, it takes me. For a breath, I believe him. Maybe I am the problem. Maybe I am the one creating ugliness in a house that prefers pretty lies. The papers, the company, the plan, it all looks like a pile of props in a sad play staged by a woman who can't accept her place in the audience. My chest tightens, the room shrinks. I picture the courtroom and hear laughter that probably won't be there but feels real right now. I see faces turning away, half smiles that mean pity, not respect. I see my mother's name in someone else's mouth, twisted and used to punish me. What if he's right? I whisper to the dark. My voice sounds small, like a child lost in a supermarket, a hand slipping from hers. I slide down until I'm lying on my side, my face turned toward the wall. The sheet is cool against my cheek. I pull the blanket over my shoulder like armor that won't stop a thing. The locket on the nightstand glints once in a car's passing beam before it goes dark again. I don't call anyone, I don't turn the light on, I just let the doubts crawl all over me. They know their way around, they've lived here before. They pull the edges of my plan up and show me the frayed threads. They say I'm making it worse. They say I'm doing exactly what everyone always feared I would. They say I'll stand in that courtroom and discover I'm an empty chair. I lay there and listen to the refrigerator hum, to the lonely click of the baseboard as it cools, to the echo of a verdict that hasn't been given but already feels carved in stone. I should reach for the locket. I should reach for the recording. But I don't, not yet. I stay where I am, small as I can make myself, pressed thin between breath and doubt while the night presses down. I didn't sleep. The hours after his call stretched thin and brittle like a pane of glass over a deep drop. I lay on my side and watched the shadows move across the wall, the streetlight outside shifting with every car that passed. The fridge hummed, the baseboard clicked, the clock on the stove glowed green, impossible and patient. Every sound felt too loud and then not loud enough. I didn't turn on the light because I didn't want to see the room. I didn't want to see how alone I really was. Daniel is my lawyer, but he isn't in my apartment at 2 in the morning, and I wouldn't call him even if he were awake. My Aunt Carol is 3 states away. My friends mean well, but they don't know what it's like to be erased in front of people who swear they love you. The family I have is the one trying to scrub me out like a stain. I got up once, walked to the kitchen for water, and stood in the dark while the tap ran, waiting for the cold to cut through the heat in my chest. It didn't. I took one sip and put the glass down. The shadows of the blinds made a ladder on my countertop. I felt like a ghost moving through my own space, brushing past a life that didn't touch me back. Maybe I was erased a long time ago and I didn't notice until now. Maybe this is just the paperwork catching up. The confidence I felt earlier was gone, taken by a voice that told me I was making a mess. It left a hollow place behind that echoed with one thought: defeat isn't coming, it's already here. It feels like my birthright handed down with my last name and that old album. I lay back down and let the dark press its hand over my mouth. I didn't fight it, I didn't have the strength. My hand moved without thinking and found the chain at my throat. The silver locket was cool, like a smooth stone pulled from a river. I closed my fingers around it and felt the small hinge, the little ridge of the clasp. It steadied me. It's a habit born from 1,000 days of needing something to hold on to when words didn't help. I slid my thumb over the surface, counting to 10, then 20, then back again. My breath smoothed out enough for me to sit up. I reached for my phone like it weighed 100 pounds and unlocked it. The screen lit my face a soft blue. I scrolled to the audio file, the one I made at her bedside, the one that's been a lifeline more than once already. I pressed play, her voice filled the room, thin and tired but still so fully her. "This is Laura Harper," she said. "It is May." The date sounded like a bell that only I could hear. She said she was of sound mind. She named me executor. And then, the other part, the one that always cracks me open and puts me back together in the same breath. "Maddie, you're the only one I trust to be fair, to be strong. Don't let them write you out." She wasn't pleading in that moment. She was passing something: strength, authority, permission, a blessing. She knew exactly what they would try. She knew what they'd call me. She knew what their faces would look like when they said those careful, wounding words. She didn't speak lightly. Mom never did. I let the recording play all the way through, then I played it again. And again. Each time the dark in the room pulled back a little more, like a tide going out. By the 3rd time I could breathe without counting. By the 4th my chest stopped hurting. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay." I swung my legs over the side of the bed and stood up, shaky but upright. I clicked on the lamp and squinted against the sudden light. My folder sat on the chair where I'd left it, the sticky note inside telling me I belonged. I touched the note with my fingertips. I put the locket back around my neck and fastened it. The chain settled against my skin with a soft, familiar weight. I went to the kitchen and drank a full glass of water. I washed it and set it to dry. I packed my bag again even though it was already packed. I laid my dress over the chair. I set 2 alarms. I stood in front of the mirror and said, "I am not your shame, I am her choice." The words didn't shake this time. When I climbed back into bed, sleep came not deep or long, but enough. In my dream, I wasn't on the outside of a picture. I was the one holding the camera, choosing what to frame. I woke up before dawn with calm in my bones and a simple truth: tomorrow I finish what she started. The courthouse is smaller than you'd think. It smells like floor polish and paper and a hint of stale coffee that never leaves old buildings. I walk through the metal detector and the guard waves me on, his expression bored but kind. My heels click against the tiles, too loud in the quiet hall. Daniel meets me at the door to the probate courtroom. He looks like he always does, pressed shirt, steady eyes. He nods, no speeches. That's how I know he believes in me. He doesn't try to talk me into strength. He acts like I already have it. Inside, the room is long and wood-paneled, with rows of hard benches facing the judge's bench. A clock ticks on the back wall with stubborn patience. I sit at our table and place my folder in front of me, the locket cool against my skin. Daniel sits to my left. I lay my palms flat on the table for a second, grounding myself. The wood is smooth, worn by years of hands like mine. Across the aisle, Carla sits with Thomas and their lawyer, Megan Carter. Carla is in a pale blouse and a pencil skirt, her hair curled into careful waves. She leans close to Thomas, whispering. He nods, his mouth a tight line like a string pulled too hard. Megan arranges her papers in neat stacks, flipping through them with fast fingers. She glances at us once, her eyes measuring and detached. The gallery fills slowly. Uncle Mike slides into a seat near the back, arms crossed. 2 women from the church choir sit together, their heads already bent in conversation, eyes cutting my way and then away. Men Thomas plays cards with sit down in a row, all khaki pants and folded arms, a line of witnesses to their version of things. And then Ruth Allen enters alone and takes a seat behind me. When I turn, she gives me a small, firm nod, one of those nods that says, "I'm here and I won't move." The bailiff calls, "All rise," and we stand. Judge Lisa Morgan walks in, takes her seat, and scans the room over the top of her glasses. Her face is unreadable in that way people in charge master early. My heart is steady. I'm aware of it in a new way, like a drum under my ribs, keeping time for me alone. Megan Carter stands first. Her voice is smooth and measured, like a teacher reading from a lesson plan she's taught 100 times. She starts with the slideshow images from the funeral, glossy photos mounted on paper. She holds each one like a window to a perfect past. "This is Laura with her family," she says. The pictures show the trio on a beach on Christmas morning, at Carla's graduation, not a whisper of me. People in the benches lean forward to see better. I hear a soft murmur when she says family, and the word walks across my skin like a cold finger. She paints a picture of a devoted husband and a daughter who cared for her mother night and day. She uses words like devastating loss and deep bond. Then she shifts and the brushstrokes change color. She talks about me with polite distance, laying down facts like spoiled bread. She calls me the eldest daughter, Madison Wells, like a label, not a person. She says I've been largely independent for years, a phrase that makes it sound like I chose distance for sport. She says my appointment as executor was unfortunate and confusing. She says my mother may have been influenced in her weakened state. I glance at the clock on the wall. The minute hand moves 1 notch. My jaw unclenches on purpose. I don't give her any reaction to feed on. Megan asks the judge to remove me as executor. She asks to confirm Carla as the sole heir. The words float in the air like gray smoke. Carla sits straighter, as if the sound of sole heir adds inches to her spine. She leans back and turns her head just enough to look at a cousin in the row behind her. I watch her mouth the words without sound. "Not a real heir. It's a mean, small thing to do, like blowing out someone else's candle. It still stings. Daniel doesn't object. He doesn't interrupt. He sits with his hands folded and lets Megan pour her story into the room until it fills up to the ceiling. The judge listens without giving anything away. The clock ticks again. When Megan is done, the judge turns her attention to our table. "Does the executor have a response?" Judge Morgan asks, and the title tucks itself back into my name like a seed. Daniel stands. "We do, Your Honor," he says in that even, steady voice that has become a kind of anchor to me. He picks up a single envelope from the table, the thick, cream-colored one with the dark red wax, and carries it to the clerk. "We have one document to present. This is a letter from Laura Harper with instructions that it be opened only by you." The room quiets as the judge breaks the seal. The sound of the wax giving way is soft, but it cuts through the air like a rip. She unfolds the pages and begins to read. The silence becomes a thing you can feel with your hands. I look down at my locket and then up at her face. As she reads, her expression shifts in tiny ways, eyes narrowing in focus, mouth softening, brows lifting in what might be recognition. It's the look of a person taking in a truth she can't argue with. When she looks up, she looks at me first, then over at Carla and Thomas. Her voice fills the room with a clarity that feels like open windows after a long winter. "This letter is perfectly clear," she says. The words echo off the wood. It affirms that Laura Harper named her elder daughter, Madison Wells, as executor. It speaks of love and care for both her daughters. She lets the phrase "both her daughters" rest in the air like a blessing, like a hand laid on my head. A ripple moves through the benches, gasps, a whispered "oh," the sound of a program being crumpled in a fist. Carla's face drains of color. She looks at the floor like it might open and swallow her. Thomas shifts in his seat, his jaw working, a muscle ticking under his skin. Ruth behind me exhales, a small, relieved sound that brushes the back of my neck like a warm breeze. At that exact moment, Daniel sends a text. I don't see him do it. I only feel the air change, the way it does when a storm is about to break. A large man in a quiet gray suit stands from the back bench and walks down the center aisle with the easy pace of someone who knows exactly where he's going and why. It's Calvin Reed. He steps into the well like he belongs there, which, in this moment, he does. He stops at the edge of the opposing table and looks directly at Carla. His voice is professional, almost gentle. "Carla Harper?" She blinks. "Yes," she says, clipped and confused. He places a folded set of papers on the table in front of her. "You've been served," he says. The words are simple and there's no cruelty in them, only finality. Megan snatches the papers and flips the first page up. Her eyes jump across the lines and her face flashes, shock bleeding into anger. "Your Honor," Megan says, standing so fast her chair legs screech, "this is highly improper. These are foreclosure papers." The judge's gaze shifts to Daniel. It's a quiet invitation. "Counselor," Daniel steps forward just enough to be heard clearly. "Your Honor," he says, calm and measured, "my client is the principal of the company that now holds the mortgage on the house at issue. Miss Harper's move to make herself the sole owner, bypassing the person in charge, triggered a term in the paperwork. The full amount is now due. We're simply giving notice." The room goes still in a way that isn't quiet, it's loaded. A low murmur swells in the gallery like a tide pulling rocks. Uncle Mike's head swivels toward me, his mouth open. One of the card-playing men lets out a soft curse he probably doesn't mean to say out loud. The choir ladies stare. Carla looks at Thomas, who is suddenly at a loss for words, his hands spread on the table like he's pinning it down. The house, the shrine to their trio, the stage where I stood off camera, has been moved somewhere they can't reach without going through me. The judge bangs her gavel once. "Order," she says, and the sound snaps the air. She looks down at the letter again. "This court recognizes the letter and the named executor," she says. "We will proceed accordingly." She glances at the papers on Carla's table, her expression neutral, but her voice couldn't be more clear. "Not here, not today, not as you planned." I don't smile, I don't gloat. I sit with my hands folded and my shoulders level. Inside, something shifts and settles like a book closing with a soft thump after the last page. I feel Mom's locket warm against my skin. I hear her voice. Don't let them write you out. In this quiet, before the room explodes into whispers again, I know I didn't. In this room, in this moment, they have to say my name. They have to say it and mean it. And I did it without staining hers. 3 weeks later, I'm standing in the living room of my mother's house. My house now, the air smells like lemon cleaner and old wood the way it always did after Mom's Saturday morning sweep. The floors echo a little when I walk because there's less furniture. They moved out last week. The front bedroom is empty except for a dust outline where a dresser used to sit. Our lawyers are still dealing with what to do with the rest of the stuff. I told them to take what they wanted. I didn't want their things. I didn't want arguments over lamps and throw pillows. I kept Mom's quilt and her recipe cards. That's enough. There's been no apology, no text, no knock on my door. Just stiff emails that read like receipts. The family is broken, but saying it out loud feels strange because the truth is, it was always broken. I just stopped pretending it wasn't. The quiet now doesn't feel like a secret I'm being punished with. It just feels like quiet. The phone rings once in the morning and it's Ruth Allen letting me know she's thinking of me. Your mother would be proud of your strength, she says, and I have to sit down on the edge of the couch because those words land soft and heavy like a warm blanket. Outside, a delivery truck rumbles past and the blinds tick against the window frame. I sip coffee that's gone lukewarm and stare at the empty mantel, a long, bare line above the fireplace. For years, it held a story I wasn't in. Now it's a blank page. I'm not celebrating. I'm not dancing. I'm just breathing in a house that can finally hold my breath. The mantel is bare because I packed all the silver frames into a box and taped it shut. They can decide what to do with those pictures. I walk down the hall to my old bedroom. The carpet is still a little loose right where it meets the doorway, a ripple I used to trip over when I was 12 and rushing to answer the phone. I open the closet and lift the leather-bound photo album from the top shelf. The cover is cracked and soft and the corners are frayed from years of turning. I sit on the floor in the living room with the album in my lap, the light from the window laying a pale rectangle across the rug. My hands flip through the pages. Me with pigtails and a missing tooth, Mom in a sundress at the Grand Canyon, wind tugging her hair, my dad holding me in a pool, both of us grinning like the sun was ours. The plastic crackles softly as I lift a photo free. I stand and place it on the mantel, then another, then another. A picture of me and Mom at the Grand Canyon goes in the center. A photo of my dad with his arms around both of us sits to the left. On the right, I set a goofy shot from my college graduation, my cap crooked and my eyes shining. I add one more, Mom and me in the kitchen, flour on our faces, laughing. The silver locket warms against my throat as I step back. The mantel doesn't look like a shrine now, it looks like a life. My life, Mom's life, our life. I flip to the last page of the album and there it is, Mom in a pale blue sweater holding me as a baby. Her smile is soft and sure. I trace the line of her jaw with the pad of my finger and feel the prickle of tears that don't ask for permission. I looked after her, Mom, I whisper into the quiet room. And I looked after me. The house doesn't answer, but it settles like a deep breath let out after holding it too long. I close the album and slide it onto the coffee table where people can actually see it. Where they can point and ask and hear the real answers. The mantle holds, so do I. Family can be messy and sometimes you have to fight to be seen. If you've had to stand up for yourself in a family battle, I'd like to hear your story in the comments. Thanks for listening and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this one.